Hey all, so when you're playing a show and you got a short set, you can jump in like a madman, right? You can play as hard as you want and probably not exhaust yourself before the end of the set. But what if you've got a really long set? What if you need to play for 4 hours total? In particular, we're gonna look at 4 different areas. Preparing for the show, what to do the day of the show, what to do once you actually get to the venue and you're all set up, and what you should do when you're actually playing. Okay, so first things first, how do you go about preparing yourself over time for these long sets? Notice that I'm saying over time here, right? This is not something you're going to be able to just jump into. You're not going to just go and start playing 4-hour sets. Me personally, I have been playing 45-minute sets and then hour and a half, 2 hours before I eventually got to a 4-hour show. Gradually increasing the set times, it can definitely help with the mental game a bit, but where you really want to see yourself kind of pushing yourself, where you're growing, is in your practice times and increasing how long those are. I do about an hour and a half uninterrupted of practice time per day. That's most days, right? So most days I'm just playing for 90 minutes straight. Over time, that schedule becomes easier. As you're doing longer practice times, longer gig times will become easier as well. But just like you can't just jump into a long gig, don't jump into a long practice. And when doing a really long practice, like 3.5 hours, just remember, it's a marathon, not a sprint. Okay, so onto our second area. It's the day of the show. What do you do? In short, you want to make sure that you treat your body right throughout the day. You're going to be working insanely hard later. You're not just playing the set. You need to break down your gear, load the car, drive there, unload, set up, play, break down, load your car again. How exhausted do you want to be by the time you're driving back home? So, what should you do? Make sure you get a good night's sleep the night before. Preferably, maybe sleep in a little bit. Have a good sized breakfast. Make sure you have some carbs and protein. Hydrate throughout the day. Break down your gear a little bit early, right? Don't wait until you're just about to go out the door. Do it maybe in the afternoon. That way you can do things a little bit slowly, a little bit more calmly, and you're not, putting out as much energy to break everything down. Eat a good sized dinner. Again, carbs and protein. And while eating dinner, have lots of fluids. You should have been hydrating this whole time, but really have some extra fluids when you're having dinner. Now imagine you're at the show, you've already gotten everything set up, and now you just need to prepare yourself. First thing I would do is some stretches. You don't want to do any bouncing motion or do anything too hard or too fast. You want to be completely relaxed. You want to hold each stretch for a good number of seconds and kind of just ease further into it. Then whip out the practice pad and just do some basic hand motions like rudiments. Even if it's just for 5 minutes, it's going to help. And this may go without saying, but go to the bathroom just before you go on the stage, maybe within, say, 5 minutes. I also don't usually drink that many fluids kind of before I'm going onto the stage. Remember, you should have been hydrating throughout the day, not just before you get on the stage. If it's winter, consider wearing your coat inside after you warm up on the pad. If not a coat, then a vest or a light jacket or something to help keep your muscles warm while you're waiting to get on. Make sure you have multiple pairs of sticks with you and potentially put on a product like Zildjian wax on one of those pairs. I'll come back to that more in a minute. Okay, so you finally take the stage. Are you gonna play like your hair's on fire? No, remember what I said about the long practices. It's a marathon, not a sprint. Try to think about the energy level that you played at during those long practices. That's the same thing you need to do here. You might tend to want to play faster or play harder, but you got to keep yourself reserved. You need to make sure you're also relaxed. How are you holding your shoulders? How's your grip? The tighter you hold all these things, the faster you're going to fatigue. Hopefully your set is structured so that you have some highs and lows, right? So maybe some fast songs and some slow songs. Try loosening up on your grip on those slower songs. Maybe every 3 songs or so, swap which pair of sticks you're using. Remember what I was mentioning before about the Zildjian wax product? Well, here's where you can kind of tie in all those different ideas. Usually I have at least one pair that's not waxed and then maybe one pair that is waxed. On those harder, busier, faster songs, I use the normal sticks. And then when things slow down, I switch to the waxed sticks and I really loosen up almost completely. This is a way of almost getting a little bit of a break while you're still playing. You can find more information on actually using and applying the Zildjian wax product in the description below. As my bandmates like to say, don't forget to breathe. I know, of course, it sounds obvious, right? But sometimes when we're working on something and we're really focused, we might be doing shorter or shallower breaths. And this is really the opposite of what we need. When you're working your muscles hard, they need more oxygen. And if they don't get it, they can cramp. Do you have a set list for the show? Write down breathe on a couple of different places on that set list. You might be surprised at how useful that little reminder is. If you drink alcohol, it will dehydrate you. And of course, we don't want that. So what should you be drinking instead? Well, I usually have a large bottle of water and a large bottle of Gatorade, or maybe watered down Gatorade. Now, some people think, only when I feel thirsty should I be bothered with having some fluids. But this is not good. Why? Because thirst is an early sign of dehydration. I'd recommend between every single song, you have some water or your sports drink or whatever. Now, in the winter, you may feel less inclined to do this. You may think, well, sweat's not running down my face, so I'm not really, perspiring. But trust me, even in the winter, you are still sweating, even if you don't feel it. Another note on beverages for the winter. Earlier, I said that I always have a large bottle of water. In reality, I actually have a thermos. And it's not one of these giant thermoses that you use for soup, but it's a decent sized thermos and it's got a little flip top. Now in the winter, I actually fill this with water that's as hot as I can get it. By the time I actually get to starting the show, it's cooled off quite a bit, but it's still warm. Now the Gatorade is also helpful because it's got a little bit of sugar in it. So that's going to help replace some of the energy that you're using, but it's probably not enough. I'd say grab a couple of little Snickers and just throw them in your stick bag. Something that you can just throw down in between songs really quick, that it's going to help give you back some of that energy that you're losing. Now, if you're playing like a 4-hour show, then I hope you've negotiated a break in between. When you're on this break, you should refill your bottle of water and your Gatorade. If you notice that you didn't drink that much during that first set, that's a big problem. Maybe have something small or light to eat again. I like to have maybe like a granola bar. Go to the bathroom again. If it's cold, throw your jacket on to keep your body warm. Most importantly, sit and relax. Yes, you've already been sitting for the last 2 hours, but that was not a relaxing sit. And that's it. I hope that those 4 areas of tips was helpful for you guys. If you are looking for more tips and tricks, whether it's on gear or lessons or recording or anything drum related, I got you covered here. So if you don't want to miss out, then don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, peace.